believe she was holding a talking lizard in her hands. To her, he was the cutest, most adorable thing she'd ever seen, so much so that she instantly liked him even more than her own beloved pet, the one she'd always cherished above everything else. Suddenly, the dragonling spotted an opening and bolted, freeing himself and darting behind his lord for safety. Hiding behind Lee's body, he quickly apologized to God Mu for failing because of the girl, blaming it on the fact that he'd lost all his power. Before Mu could even respond, the girl approached him with a serious expression, one that looked downright terrifying to the little lizard. She asked if, by any chance, that tiny creature was his friend. Mu glanced at his visibly shaken assistant and somehow confirmed it by saying, "Friend? Not sure about that, but yes, that little one is my obedient assistant." The girl finally introduced herself as Kim Yujin, though it was obvious she was jealous. Jealous that Mu had such an obedient, talking, and, let's be real, adorable lizard. Her expression was so easy for Mu to read, and though he wasn't entirely sure why she looked so stunned and envious, an idea popped into his head. With a sudden and unexpected move, Mu shifted his leg, the one the dragonling was clutching onto for dear life, closer to the girl and said, "If you want, I could lend him to you for a bit, in exchange for a little information." Of course, the poor dragonling's opinion didn't matter to Mu in the slightest, and Yujin? She lit up at the offer. Obviously, she would do anything to hold the lizard for a while. Giving up some information was the smallest price for her to pay. Without waiting for her to respond, Mu reached down, grabbed the dragonling by the neck, and handed him over to her. "Take him. You can keep him as long as you like, but there's someone you have to help me find." Kim was so mesmerized by the lizard that she didn't hesitate to agree, not even stopping to ask if they were tracking down a criminal, a good person, or something else entirely, and of course, that was exactly what Mu wanted to see. Without a second thought, and as if he didn't care about his assistant at all, he casually tossed the little lizard toward her. To Kim's surprise, the poor thing spun midair and landed right on top of her head. The dragonling couldn't help but wonder how his lord could abandon him so easily, like he was nothing. Meanwhile, Mu didn't waste a moment. He started walking off, telling the dragonling to stay with Kim Yujin for a while and return on his own later. Still in shock, the dragonling tried to ask where his master was planning to go without him, but Mu just ignored him completely, acting like he'd suddenly found something exciting to do after what had been a dull day. Not long after, Kim and the dragonling arrived at her house, and things were, well, a little awkward. Kim couldn't help but wonder if the lizard was mad at her for being dragged along against his will, and truthfully, he wasn't thrilled about the situation. But since he couldn't defy his lord's orders, he sighed and introduced himself. After a moment, he stretched out his tiny hand and, trying to keep things professional, explained the situation to Kim. "As per my master's instructions," he said, "you'll be actively cooperating with me from now on." Kim was momentarily taken aback at the sight of a tiny lizard trying to boss her around, but the way he acted, and the fact that she could say or do whatever she wanted with him, made her heart skip a beat for a second. Still, she didn't want to come off as rude, so she placed her fingers on the dragonling's tiny hand and gave it a little shake to show respect. As she did, she asked, "By your master, do you mean Li Ho?" The dragonling didn't respond, but his silence seemed to confirm her guess. Taking that as her answer, Kim nodded and said she was willing to cooperate with him if that's what he wanted. Then, with a proud grin, she announced her position. "By the way, I'm the president of my class." The dragonling blinked, completely confused. "What's a president?" he asked, tilting his little head. Seeing his puzzled reaction, Kim chuckled and explained, "It means I'm like the leader of my class, and besides that, I'm also ranked first in my grade." Hearing this, the dragonling's eyes widened in realization. "Ah, so that's why my master chose this girl, because she's an important person." But as this thought settled in his mind, another realization hit him like a bolt of lightning. If this girl was the leader of her class, then that meant my lord wasn't the leader. Unable to hold back his curiosity, the dragonling asked, "Wait, does that mean Lord Li Ho isn't the leader of your class?" Kim paused for a moment, her expression shifting as she got lost in thought. After a few seconds, she finally replied, "Li Ho? He's not even an average student in our class. Honestly, he's one of the lowest in everything." The dragonling froze, utterly stunned by her answer. For a moment, he just stood there, trying to process the shocking information. The moment Mu's assistant realized what she said, he shouted in disbelief, thinking Kim was talking about Mu himself. The idea seemed completely impossible to him. To clear up what he assumed was a misunderstanding, the tiny lizard, now sweating with both discomfort and frustration, without mentioning Mu's name, firmly declared that his master was the strongest being in the entire world, stronger than any god. The dragonling, acting as if he were still in his terrifying dragon form, started bossing Kim around again. He demanded that she do her absolute best to help his master become even stronger so he could finally get his revenge. Kim, on the other hand, was impressed by